Belvista Studio Show.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to an episode of the Belvista Studio Show. I am super excited about today's episode because I have a big hero and friend of mine, Cath Ellis, on. And what a legend you are. But
you're the legend.
We're twins. We can be twin legends. But thank you for putting me in your little caliber. I appreciate that. No, you're someone I've looked up to for a long time, and I have learned so much from you personally. And I find it really hard to have mentors because I'm like, they're not pushing me enough, but you definitely do that. So thank you for that. And I know that you do that for other people as well. This show is all about you, girl. But this show is our opportunity to look at awesome e-learning examples across the industry to help show people what's possible and how they can think about things. And the example today that Kat's going to show is freaking awesome. I remember when she was developing it and talking us through it. Now it's out in the world happening. She took it to Demo Fest at DevLearn. It was highly appreciated example of work there, and she won an award. So I'm really excited to explore it with you today. The first question we ask is basically, what was the business objective or goal? Where did this training come from?
Yeah, no problem. So I've done a few pieces of work with the Transport Accident Commission over the last few years, and they've been very good. You know, they're kind of your perfect client. They don't really fight, solutions. They're kind of saying, Cath, we want you to come up with something, and that's the perfect kind of client. So they called me in, and they basically said, look, we've got this fraud and corruption module we want to roll out. We know it's a total snooze fest, compliance training, but we're looking at something a little bit different. And I said, okay. And they said, they told me a little bit more. It's about information loss.
Okay.
They hadn't rolled out that topic. What did I think? And I'm a massive fan of podcasts, Kim. So I said to them, well, do you like podcasts? Because when I think about fraud and corruption, I think about all these podcasts that are out, and there's normally something like that that's underlying. And they said, oh yeah, well, how would that look like? And I said, well, have you seen S-Town? And they said, no, we haven't. So I put their website up. Do you want me to show you what I showed them?
Yeah.
I'm not sure how this is going to look, but I'll just share my screen.
Cool.
I basically...
My team are so excited about this one as well because they're addicts of podcast crime shows, and I told them that that's where you got the inspiration, that it's like that, so they can't wait to see this episode as well.
Yeah, so basically, I just said, well, if you look at S-Town's website here, and This American Life did S-Town, and they did Serial, and at DevLearn, actually, a couple of years ago, there was a keynote speaker who did Serial and talked through it. And I took a few things away. I'd written notes and, how to kind of top and tail a good episode and things like that, cliffhangers and stuff. So I said, okay, if you look at this is basically like any WordPress, HTML5, scrollable page.
Yeah.
If we thought about telling a story, basically going from end to end, the procedure of what we want a learner to follow.
Yeah.
And then we underpin it with theory. So if you look at this, it's got a little bit of writing here. Here, simple image, we've got chapter name, and we've got the audio. Now, this is very simple, but I said, I can use a tool called Adapt and essentially give them a similar, not a similar feel, but they will have audio, but we can underpin it with the things that, this isn't going to be a pure podcast. It's actually going to be so much more. It's going to have theory. It's going to have little formative assessments. So, they were really keen on that. So we set up a workshop day in which we could talk about the story.
Yeah.
So I'll jump onto my next board here. And this is my Trello board. This is how I do all my work. It looks crazy, but it's very organized.
Yeah.
So here was actually the end of the day, the story. So you can see here, you know, that whole end goal was improving the culture at TAC. And we started thinking about who was actually going to be the you know, initially, you know, is it going to be the TAC employee who's going to be the villain? Is it going to be someone else? And we talked about that. You know, do we make an employee of the business actually the baddie? You know, we decided against it because I said, you know, we're building a fictional story here. Let's think about a real life situation that could happen, and things like this happen all the time. So, you know, do you want me to stop me here, or do you want me to keep going?
Keep
about
going.
the story?
I'm following. Yeah.
So basically, the line manager, she's worked for TAC a number of years. She's very well respected. She's got the good life, kids in school. You know, she's our age. You know, she's and what's happening is her husband has actually lost his job. He's a computer software engineer, kind of understands a few things. And you can see here, keeping up with the Joneses, there's a bit of pressure here. They've lost their job. You know, he's lost his job. So he actually goes out and he starts gambling, loses his money, and or loses a load of money and gets in with this debt collector. And he discloses that his wife works for TAC, and she can get records for him. And then he puts her under a lot of pressure. So what I'll do is, you know, it's basically just talking through. If you think about a policy, I took that policy and I made it into a story. That's all I did, underpinning characters around it.
And so that second column, sorry, before you get into it.
Yeah.
Where you've got bad guy issues, that's kind of like your, I guess, the foundation of the story, and then the ones that are going across in the rows are that part of the story being fleshed out. Is that how?
Yes. So see here from the reporting. Yep. Okay, so we've got here, what were the issues? So keeping up with the Joneses. So what I've got: co-offender, husband planted seed, works in IT. There's debt, access to a USB stick. That was all that was needed. This bad guy, he says, oh, we've got a solution. Your wife works for the TAC. She can steal records, or we can sell them on the dark web or whatever.
Yeah, wow.
I think I did too much detail in the podcast. We're leaving it enough for people to imagine what's happening. And here we've got reporting. How long can this go on? USB stops working. Neighbor overhears them arguing in the background. She's under pressure. She's like, I don't want this I can't do this any longer, you know. He actually dobs them in. So there's a dobbing line for things like,
like the whistleblower type thing
at the TAC. So here, you know, you've got well-being checks happening by the boss, by members of staff, and these are all kind of the way that they pop in and out of the podcast, right? So the podcast just wasn't linear, a linear person speaking. It was a number of little things, and I'll show you how I did that.
Yeah.
So look, this is jumping a bit far, but this is the end product. And what we did straight after doing the workshop, I actually went away and I did a trailer. Now, the trailer was really, it's normally the last thing that you do, you know, but I wanted to try and give them an idea of how this could look, how it could be themed up. And sometimes when you sit with a client, like a client who wants a learning tool, they'll say, oh, we've got our brand, you know, we've got the TAC brand, and, you know, we're happy with that. sometimes if you can do something innovative from the beginning, I think you can start. They don't know what they don't know. What do you think, Kim?
I love that. I think that's it. Yeah, we can be restricted by the brand style guide, but if we showcase something like what you're about to show, a trailer, or I don't know, like a stylescape or a lookbook or mood board, it can get them excited about thinking differently about what's possible.
I think so. I mean, I still use their colors, and you'll see it. Is it in the menu? No. Again, these blacks, the fonts were in line with the TAC, but their hero blue comes through the course. Cool. So I went away and I did this trailer, so I'll play it for you.
Yep.
Just move this off my screen.
Get the popcorn, people. Amazing. I freaking love it. Even I've seen it before and I'm still like, oh my God. So good.
Look, it was great because basically showed it to the client and they were just thrilled with it. Said, oh, it looks absolutely fantastic. And they could start seeing the characters come together.
Yes.
So they were really keen on that. And I said, well, basically what I can do is this has been built in After Effects.
Yeah.
I can take that file in After Effects. And just like we do in Storyline, you can unlock layers. It's just basically layers of whether it's a it's all different layers of things moving. So whether it's the video, whether it's if you can see here these numbers moving, it's actually I could talk about this forever, but you can make things look really amazing directly in Storyline. But I was able to take this After Effects file and just strip it back.
Yeah.
So what you're basically seeing here is I went to Envato Elements and I used a lot of the tools like the background music, etc. from Envato Elements, and I just started stripping things back. I knew I needed a background image. I knew I needed treatments on all of these images. I mean, these images are actually the Transport Accident Commission.
Okay.
And I just put the treatment on it from After Effects in Photoshop. Now, I know it's really hard for learning designers, especially like me, freelancers, who say, I just don't know how to design things quite, well.
Yeah.
If you've got a great things like an After Effects template that you've got, if you can learn these little things, how to use Photoshop, how to use After Effects, you can get great looking products. So anyway, did all these treatments, and was able to skin it up. So I'll show you how I've done it.
Yeah. While it's loading, so that video, like in terms of the footage and stuff, had you bought that off like a stock place? So you didn't actually go out and film the little scenes that we saw?
It was all stock.
Yeah.
And I was able to put whatever I wanted into it. So for example, this was a font that I think I also got from Envato Elements. Initially, we called it Keeping Up with the Joneses, and it was actually the team who had to think about it and said, well, we think the Fallout, right?
Yeah.
So having things like fonts, it's just a very quick change. You know, I'm not having to buy anything specific. I can just add it. And because that template basically did all the treatment. It was just a word change. So it was fantastic.
Yeah.
So here I've got backgrounds, I've treated this, and that's just come straight out of Envato Elements. Now I've given it an introduction, said it's a fictional course, and that's important because, you know, this isn't something that's happened, but potentially, like I actually took the scenario from another business where it had happened.
Yeah,
so
wow.
It can happen in Australia.
Yeah.
So again, I talked to them about not just giving them boring information, you know. So I do my learning objectives like this. I put them in these little reflective activities. You know, how confident are you? I believe that this is the what's in it for me.
Yeah.
So, you know, if someone says, well, I'm not confident, they'll get a message saying, well, hopefully this course is exactly what you need.
Yeah.
If they say I'm confident, we'll say, well, that's brilliant, you're confident. Hopefully you'll learn a few extra little bits of information.
Awesome.
But it's being respectful of adults, you know.
Yeah.
Here, very simple navigation. I actually hate that this is in, but a lot of clients still feel that they need it. So that's all right. And I should also say to you that this was like most products that we build. Myself and you build, Kim. You know, for me, I did a learning strategy for the client. I did a course overview. I did a storyboard, and I did the build. So it wasn't just me going in and building this. There was lots of work, and everything was signed off before it went into build.
Yeah. And one thing I want to point out
behind things.
Say that again, sorry, I cut you off.
There's lots of thought that went behind everything. So the fact that it had the titles that it did, the job, the opportunity, the deception, and the fallout, this was actually aligned with things that the business wanted the learners to understand. Prevention, disruption, detection, disruption, and investigation. And I think that's really important, because if I had just not thought about that, these badges become a little bit redundant.
Yeah.
So essentially, if you look at S-Town, you know, we're starting to see quite a few similarities here. Well, obviously it looks different, but in the way that it had a little intro and it's got its first chapter.
Yeah. Now,
this was something now that I've actually been thinking about how I would change this. I would probably make this a video with like an audio wave in it now.
Yeah.
Potentially with the subtitles directly on the videos.
Yeah.
What I have done for this module is I put the transcript down here.
Yeah. And so why have you thought that you'd do it differently now?
Well, it came actually from the client who essentially said to me, will people know they need to click this button? And I said, yes. I said, actually, if it's a video, they're still going to need to click that button.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But I think that's the only thing. Maybe to just wouldn't make much of a difference, but I have since built myself, just from learning on YouTube, how to do a little video with a kind of a wave out of it, and have tried doing the subtitles. And After Effects makes it very easy to add subtitles and things in. So yeah, might do that for the next time round.
One thing I want to ask you, I can see this particular file is 3 minutes, 15 seconds. What's your perspective on, because you know how there's like the perfect time for video and things like that, and it's like, it should be under 7 minutes, or some people say it should be 2 to 3 minutes. Are you about putting a kind of, we're trying to achieve this in 3 minutes or less, or are you about, we design, the instructional design perspective is focused on, as long as it adds value, it will be as long as it needs to be.
Yeah, I think so. I certainly, Kim, I only spoke to someone yesterday about this.
Mm.
A client had a kind of discovery meeting and said she wanted a course that was an hour and a half. And my response was, whoa, right? And I said, you have to start thinking about these things. No one has an attention span anymore. There's a reason why a TV show has breaks every 10 minutes. Or think about how you sit down with your partner to watch a movie. You know, you get yourself a cup of tea, you go to the toilet. It's actually a big thing because no one has an attention span. And it's like this. So I think about a TV advert, think about a radio advert. They don't go on for this kind of length of time. So really, I kept it as concise as I could.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to start losing content for the sake of it.
Yeah.
I mean, 3 minutes, I think, is maybe a bit long still. 2 minutes and a half, 2 minutes. You know, I think if it's engaging, though, it will keep people in. And that's why when I show you this, you know, we've got a narrator, then you've got a news indent that sounds like it's actually that little block that's coming on the news.
Yeah.
And then the narrator comes back in and wraps it up.
Yeah, cool.
That's a sweet spot, you know. It could have been crazy. But I think that I mean, what's your thoughts on that, Kim?
Until I started experimenting, just heard that 3 minutes or 7 minutes was like the sweet spot. But now when I think about human-centered design, I'm all about what value is it bringing. So for me, I think it goes as long as it adds value. And that's what it needs to be. So if I think about, because look, Joe Rogan's podcasts go for 2.5 hours and people sit and listen to them, but they may choose to not listen all at once, or they may, like me, I'm sitting here all the time, I'll sit and listen to them in one go, but it's only as long as it adds value. So I think, and that's how he makes his income, basically, for hours and hours of talking. So it's entertainment, I guess.
Look, I think so. I mean, me and you have got a favorite speaker that we sit and watch hours of him, you know. It really depends on, you know, are you invested in this? I think for compliance training, if you start making people watch more than that, you're losing them. And I think this was the longest one. I think the other ones were like 2 minutes 30.
Yeah, cool.
So
do you want to play one of them? Do you want to play one of them? Is there one that you...
Yeah, you might not hear it very well, but I'll just give it a go. So essentially, it's that kind of tone. The narrator was the perspective of a fraud investigator for the TAC. Okay, so it's like they were talking through the whole course.
Yeah.
Obviously, in this one, you've got a news anchor, and that was, for me, the perspective that I tried to put on it was, this is a great way for you to talk about the really boring crap like legislation and things like that. Right? Because that's what, if you actually, I listened, I sat and I researched and watched a load of news indents and tried to write it in the same kind of tone. And even the way in the end here, if you think about incidents that happened in the news, even last night, the train crash, you know, a 38-year-old Geelong woman pleaded guilty today at the Geelong Magistrates Court to breaches under the Transport Act. She was found guilty and received 12-month suspended sentence and ordered to perform 150 hours of unpaid community work.
That's brilliant.
So again, we may not be experts in some of these things, but I believe a lot of this is all at our fingertips as learning designers if we start really thinking about how the pros do it out there. So under each chapter, I underpinned it with theory, right?
Okay.
And that's going to be the thing that if you want to do something a little bit different with your content, I think you have to tread very carefully, because if I said, let's just make this whole thing a podcast, no theory, that's a bit hard, right? At least you can take baby steps with this stuff. So that's why I still added this in. So here we've got what is fraud and corruption.
Yeah.
And this just has a little pop-up. And you can see I just treated these images directly from the Adobe After Effects file.
Yeah.
Okay. I also use this trickle function on Adapt because, again, when you're using a new authoring tool, I think sometimes clients go, oh, well, how are they going to, how do you know they've read it all? Well, we do know they've read it all because if they click on it, it's showing them.
Yeah.
But again, you can use these things. That's what I did to control it. What the experts say. So we've got a lot of theory here as well.
Yeah. And
then we've got a little formative assessment. Cool. And again, you can make them visually look nice, Yeah. So this was, and it was really interesting because this question wasn't in the content at all. This is now, let's get people critically thinking about this. Who do you think was to blame for this incident occurring?
Wow.
And actually, it's everybody. You can see here, they get a thumbs up and they get a little badge. And over here, they get a little thing going, yep, you've achieved your badge.
Awesome.
So
where do you get your icons from? Is that the embargo elements or?
No, so the icons are just Font Awesome.
Okay.
You know Font Awesome?
I don't, but what I do is I put like all the, things, the resources we're talking about, I put the links in the description of the video, so that's why I want to get it.
Well, Font Awesome is really cool because they're fairly generic icons that you will have seen anywhere.
Yeah.
But what you can actually do is you can download it as a font. So using a product, even if you don't use Adapt, you can use Articulate Storyline and actually embed them in as a font. So I use them for all my navigation icons, so I don't have to make them.
Yeah.
And what's really nice is if you think about how easy it is to change colors in Storyline on a button or things like that, it's just a one click. So yeah, definitely cool. go in and check that out.
Yeah.
So that was basically just a Font Awesome icon that I embedded in that feedback and up here.
Very cool.
Yeah. And you can see if I just go to icons here. If the same goes if you're building something in like a website, there's actually just going to be a little bit of code that you can pop in. Yeah. Anyway, nerdy stuff. Go and check it out. It's really cool. So basically every single section mirrored this, Kim. Every one of them mirrored. And then I basically racked it up. Like a lot of clients, they want a message from the boss. And this guy is the happiest, smiliest guy ever. But I made him look a bit of a mafia don,
Yeah.
To go along with the theme. So he recorded a message to his team. And then I, again, just did this, now you've completed the course, take a minute to reflect how you feel. How confident are you now? And again, just using those adult learning principles. Well, if you don't know, so if it's not confident, you know, perhaps revisit the course again, check out the resources, talk to your manager, or have a chat with the fraud and compliance group. Basically put in a link showing that there was also some goodies up here in resources. So that was easy. And then I put a course evaluation in. And I used Typeform for that.
Okay.
I don't know, do you use Typeform yourself, Kim?
I don't know, but I have heard of it. But tell us why you like it though.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of things to like. It is expensive, but Typeform, you can see, have allowed me to continue that brand. You know, apart from the URL, a learner clicking on that button would feel like it's essentially a consistent product, you know?
Yeah.
One of my favorite things is the logic jump that you can do, and also the personalization. So if I put in my name, Cath, okay, based on your personal experiences, Cath, did the stories in this podcast series resonate with you? So now it's very much a personalized, you know, from your perspective, Cath, did the stories within this podcast series provide a diversity of perspectives from both sides? You know, it's more conversational.
Yeah.
So that's really why I like it. Another good thing about Typeform is you can give a link to the client, and it actually has like a dashboard with all of the feedback. But instead of it giving kind of showing individuals, they can see the open-ended questions, all of the feedback that was given, but it just gives you a percentage. So we found that this was, the last time I looked, about 7.8% satisfaction rating. What I'll say to you, Kim, is there are always going to be people that hate online learning. They are. So am I upset by it? Of course, you want to do something great and have people love it. But I'm pretty sure that if companies, I work with a lot of companies who say, no, we don't need evaluation, thank you.
Yeah.
And in the back of my mind, I say, well, you're scared of the feedback. You're scared of what it's going to say. And you shouldn't be scared of that feedback, because you want to hear people's comments. I mean, I had someone vote it was, or give feedback that it was the worst piece of e-learning that they've ever experienced.
Wow. Oh my God. And I'm sitting here thinking it's one of the best I've ever seen.
But like I said to you, everyone has their own perspective.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And it wasn't that they didn't understand the question, because the feedback was clear. They didn't like it.
Yeah.
So, but what I'll say to you is, I've worked for years doing compliance. And I don't think that, you know, I get a lot of clients or people wanting to have discovery meetings with me, and their solutions, they might as well, I've said this to you before, just flush the money down the toilet. It's not going to do anything for them.
Yeah.
And I felt at least this was an opportunity to do something a little bit different, and would be engaging, you know, would be an engaging way of delivering the content. So clients very happy. That's all I need to know. And certainly it was interesting going to DevLearn and, you know, presenting it. I mean, John Hinchcliffe, I don't know if you listened to this podcast yesterday with Jack Hutchinson, and you know, he was sat there, and I was like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "I'm nearly crying." I said, "What are you talking about, John?" Right? So you're making me cry. I said, "Mate, what?" You know. So I mean, look, I love pop culture and taking things from things that I see online. I think it's great. And when I see cool solutions, I go, how can I replicate that? But you can do this in Storyline. You could do, you know, you know, it's really about, even though I'm not a great person at writing scripts, but I spent a significant amount of time researching, and really thinking about what I find is engaging. So podcast was an interesting one, Kim, because a lot of podcasts are true. They're actually true stories. So I did a search online for fictional podcast, and there was one. I looked through these ones.
Yeah.
This rings a bell. This White Limetown. I think it was this Limetown. And I was able to actually just sit and really break it down.
Excellent. Yeah.
Because, you know, you think about podcasts such as Teacher's Pet. Okay. I was obsessed with it. And the way that they, you know, the narrator, he was phenomenal. He would talk, and then he might have a clip from a friend. And, you know, you're going, okay, so I don't have that. So how am I going to build content that's going to work for, you know, a fictional podcast? But if you do enough research and you start breaking things down, you can absolutely understand the way to do it. Yeah.
It is. There's clues out there. It's observation, and you can see that although you didn't have real life kind of scenarios to cut to, or footage, or voiceover of people talking, even that part where we heard the newsreader come on, it had the little music that comes in that we're very familiar with when a newsreader comes on with their like breaking news type thing. You know, those little additions are just so nice. And if you just sit down and take the time to observe the things, I think you can achieve like a fantastic result as you have.
Absolutely. Like Envato Elements. So I needed music for behind the narrator, for behind the video. So, you know, Envato Elements, I think, is the best money that you can spend. Can't remember how much it is, maybe $29, $39 a year. And you can scroll down here. So I've got sound effects, I've got music, but what's beautiful is when I went to the company to do the voiceover work, I said to them, Wario, here's the music and here are the licenses. Because the voiceover guy was like, oh, you know, money, it costs money for music. And I was like, yeah, that's okay. I'll send it all to you, and a license. So it's all copyright. It's all covered. It's fantastic. So, you know, for the sound effects, you know, I wanted things like news indent. Is that what I did? No. So news. You know, so if you, so obviously these are different things, but if you just start researching, you can find everything you needed. You know, I had phone, and I wanted it all overlapping. So it wasn't just the narrator and then it stops and then it was the next thing. But yeah, really, really interesting. And I know you have a massive American following, so I'm going to show you one last thing. This Well Said Labs. I don't know if you've checked this out.
Nope.
Mate, it is insane, right?
Yeah.
This is AI these voices are AI. I don't.
You could get away with that being a human being.
Mate, it is just like a human.
That's
but
crazy.
There is no Australian voices.
Ah.
So, it's dangerous territory because once they start getting catalogs of different countries and this AI, I mean, it makes Alexa sound, sorry, Alexa, she's lighting up here. It'll make Alexa just sound terrible. But yeah, check these out, because I think for things like, certainly where we're going. I mean, me and you are very creative with our solutions for clients, and I say no so much more than I say yes. If a client wants voiceover reading out of text, I say I'm the wrong person to do it. I'm not building it.
That's one thing that I wanted to bring up as a takeaway, is to really do you. And this is something that I think you really just embody, is as a designer, developer, do you and what you believe in, and don't be afraid to push back, because you're the expert, and also you have every right to. And sometimes people don't get feared by it. Like, your clients won't go, oh God, no, like Kim's so nasty, like I'm not going to deal with her. They listen, but they just want to hear a different perspective. And I think you don't always have to say yes to things just because you want the money, if you are like a vendor or freelancer. But also, what I really love about what you do, Cath, is in you being you attract clients that appreciate your passion and your interests, which allow you to work on projects that you enjoy and that actually have an impact. And I think they're better for the learner in the end run. And that's something that I really appreciate about you, is that you just do you, and you're attracting clients for that reason. I know you get clients as well that are just normal click to reveal, blah, 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 or you've had them in the past. You're probably saying no to them more and more now. But you get known for the things that you talk about and that you showcase. So don't be afraid as a designer, a developer, to do that and build your brand around that.
Well, do you know Ralph?
I think I've met him once, but yeah.
So he put something up the other day. I was very cheeky. I called him Yoda because of it, because he's so wise, right?
Wow. Okay, tell us.
No, I'm just being cheeky. But he did say, be courageous. And honestly, as a learning designer, I think we have a big responsibility, and I honestly, when I maybe I've been listening to too much Christo, but I honestly feel like with some solutions, I just go, I am the wrong person to work on this. Sorry, it's I'm not quite as cheeky as Chris, who says, maybe go to Fiverr, to get it done. But I do, I basically, I believe that the companies out there that are offering solutions, e-learning solutions for 5,000, 10,000, 15,000, they have no clue, right? We are trying to solve a solution for a business. And even if someone spends 5,000 and invests all that time, 3 months, 2 months to develop a module for $5,000, it's not going to change anything within the business. You might as well really think about what you're wanting to achieve. And a good learning designer will go in there and will be courageous and say to them, it's not about money, but it's about what you're wanting to try and achieve, and tell me what has worked in your business and what hasn't worked.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them that don't have evaluation data, they won't be able to tell you, but a good learning designer who's going in there and is evaluating and can come out of it and say, look, they seem to really hate the audio, doesn't seem to be working, or the feedback's clear that you're doing too much with video, right? But we are a little bit limited. I do try and talk to clients about moving away from this e-learning modules and doing more just-in-time training, having learning tools available there when they need them. Like Alexa solutions, I can't talk more about being able to have solutions there that someone could just ask a question, it'll give them the feedback.
Yeah.
But a lot of businesses are not ready. There's tons of conversations on LinkedIn about XAPI and things like that, and it's great when you can get a company, but the majority of them, Kim, are not at that stage yet. So it's really about saying, well, and with those clients at TAC, they knew what they liked, and that's a great question to ask as well. How do you learn? If I said to you, how do you turn positive numbers green in an Excel spreadsheet? What would you do? And the majority of them
me already.
YouTube, right? And so I really feel like it's getting, in a way, you're talking to people and you're really digging deep on how they learn, and you're trying to do a similar solution. I mean, clients who say, I want an interactive PowerPoint that reads out the text and that is completely locked down and is basically the equivalent of what I think hell is going to be like, a lockdown e-learning piece. Don't be scared. Ask them, when was the last time you did e-learning? What did you like about it? What didn't you like about it? Well, let's not do the same thing to learners, shall we?
Yeah.
Well, or be even more courageous and say, no, I'm not the right person to do it.
What I love is that TAC, I'm going to assume they're kind of like a government client, where traditionally they have no budget and it's very restricted, and you must do it this way, and it's more of a tick in the box. But I'd say more thing around the budget side of things for government type clients. But you were able to do something like this for them. And I think
TAC are probably a different exception, because they've been doing e-learning for quite a long time.
Yeah.
And they actually know the value of it.
Yeah, but I think that's really awesome that you have that, and good on them. Like, it's awesome to have clients, like you said at the beginning, like that. I think though, culturally, it can be not accepted by that type of client to want to push the boundaries or do something different. And even with a low budget, you could still achieve what you have done, because instead of the time going into development and making things with triggers and variables, you're spending the dollar amount and the budget on getting voiceover done for podcasts. So there's less, you're just repurposing where the budget's spent. So think about it that way as well, is something I'd encourage people to do. So get creative and see, this is where I want to take it, and this is going to meet the needs. And then how can we achieve that? And in terms of how do we use the budget to, like, maybe bring it down a level, but still get some fun things in there. So I just challenge people to think about it a bit differently.
I totally agree. When I give a quote to a client, I don't go so far in as say, you're going to have narrative, you're going to have this, you're going to have that. I actually say the course is going to be this long. It's going to have 75% interactivity, which is telling them straight off the bat that they're not going to have these just clumps of text and image. Yep. They will have to click on something or do something or critically think about something. And I really think that when I sat and I reviewed this module, I actually said to my wife, and I'm pretty sure that I've said it to you as well, this was, for me, the easiest piece of work I've ever done.
Wow.
Because it restricts me. It's actually harder for me to do a, everything just becomes more difficult when I'm being told, put this massive clump of text that I can't even read.
Yeah.
But when I've got a client who says, you're the instructional designer, go ahead, treat the text as you think, and we'll give you feedback. My rounds of feedback will literally, here's the feedback, Cath. They couldn't have, the storyboard, there was minimum changes, 20 changes maybe, except, ready to build.
That's very cool.
But, I'm sure that there's a lot of things, to think about, like the client knew me, the clients trusted me. It's not always that way, but honestly, since I've been able to be since I've jumped ship and I'm a freelancer, my jobs have become easier and easier because I'm confident the minute that I start talking to them, and I get them to talk about what's bad e-learning, what's good e-learning, what they like. And instead of me defining their budget that way, it's, I don't know. You're very confident as well, Kim. And I think there's a lot that you can take from, a lot that a client takes from someone who sits there and says, well, this, that, and the other,
Yeah, and I think that's coming back to what we were chatting about before is do you. And I think we're both two individuals that really are clear on our own personal values and then our professional values, and we try to align to them to the best of our ability in every situation. And it helps that we really are passionate about what we do. So yeah, I think that's where it comes from. Yeah, I feel like this stuff, I'm just conscious of time. Like Cath is amazing. If you don't follow her on LinkedIn, I think you should. She sends out amazing resources regularly of all the things. You've just seen so many tools right now, but you're always posting and sharing the new things that you find. And you also do the little carousels of tips that you are putting out at the moment. They're gold, especially if you're a freelancer. Like, you're an incredible role model for that. And I'd love to chat to you another time about the business side of it. Because this one is more about e-learning development, and I want people to remember that we didn't talk about the instructional design side of this project specifically because it is about showcasing the development side of it. To wrap up just this particular part, if you don't mind, I want to just ask you about your choice of Adapt, why you recommend that as a development tool, and when are good times to use that.
Yeah, so I started using Adapt really before Rise came about. So you could be asking the question, why did I choose Rise? Basically, in a nutshell, when I talk to a client, one of the questions that I ask them is, who is the end user? Where are they going to be doing the training? If they say, well, they work for, they're going to be on the floor. Well, that product to me has to be responsive. Okay. if they say, well, they work behind a desk and, you know, they might look at it on a tablet, might look at it on a mobile, you know, great. But what I say to them is, think about the interactivity that we see on the web. I can give you about the same. If you want something that's very interactive, we generally don't see that and I've got my phone in my hand. We generally don't see that kind of interactivity on the web. Okay, it's more of a game or something like that. So you need that to be on a bigger device.
Yeah.
So I basically suggested Adapt for a couple of reasons. That it was going to be opened on a few different devices, but I was trying to show them that they could have something quite similar to the look of S-Town. But generally, there's a few responsive tools that are out there. Adapt's my favorite. I know it now. I'm good at it. I can theme and CSS up most things.
Is it free and easy to use for someone that is just going to pick it up?
So I don't use the free Adapt. I use Learning Pool's Adapt, which is a subscription based.
Right.
If you go to learningpool.com/Cath Ellis, I'm pretty sure there's a link there for an extended subscription. I think they give a month instead of 7 days.
Cool. Thank you.
Which is pretty good. So you can go and you can play with it. Evolve is another tool that's great. Evolve authoring tool. That actually is, those guys basically copied Adapt, or they worked on the initial Adapt and then they've played with the framework. I like Evolve. I found it a little bit clunkier in the beginning, so that's why I just steered to Adapt.
Yeah.
Rise, do you know what? I think Rise is fantastic. You'll see that Amazon are doing all their training in Rise right now.
Wow.
Google are doing all their training in Evolve. Facebook are doing all of their training in Adapt. So, you know, you've got good tools here. My problem with Rise is I can't really charge a client a premium price for Rise. It is so generic looking. I'm so limited by it, but they keep changing it and they keep building on it. So that's good.
Yeah. And it serves a different purpose as well. Like the training or learning experience through those kinds of tools is different from a highly immersive and interactive one.
Yeah.
So just, for people to keep that in mind as well.
Absolutely.
More information based. Or you could have done exactly what you did for the Fallout.
Storyline.
Yeah.
Yeah. And look, as a freelancer, I've had to control myself. So I pay for Storyline and I've got Adapt. And I'm like, I think those are going to be my tools. Because if I start going crazy and, I mean, I don't do Captivate. I don't know if you do Captivate.
No, I hate it.
Yeah, it's not a tool that I touch. But, you know, those are normally the questions that I ask to identify what the client needs. And I think that actually building in Adapt is great. You know, I've just built a module for my wife because I'm always building things for her. I'm like her little slave. And I've done a 30-minute induction and I've used all SVGs in it.
Okay. And
the size of it is 2.5 megabytes.
Holy moly. Can you explain what an SVG is?
Yep. What is it? Something vector graphic.
Yeah, it's kind of like a JPEG or a PNG or a GIF or a video file, MP4. The end of the file is named SVG.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think what the S is, though. It's
maybe it's small vector graphic.
Small. But basically, I'm building all my background images, all my avatars, everything throughout
Yeah.
is an SVG, which basically means that it's like it's pure HTML.
Wow.
You know?
Yeah.
So it just weighs nothing. So yeah, I said to her last night, the induction is 2.5 megabytes, which is phenomenal because it's actually for regional workers.
Oh, brilliant.
And for them who have like most of them don't have internet, they may have just 3G. It means that they're not, having to use a mad load of bandwidth to actually look at the induction. So, and it's big, it's a 30-minute induction. So, got no videos in it though. That's why I've been able to keep it so cool. Small.
There's a program or a website called, I think I'll find it out and put it in the description, but it's something like Tiny Panda. And basically you can upload all your images in there and they compress them for you. Because I've had problems in the past where an LMS might only accept 50 meg max and the course comes in at maybe like 60 or something, and you're like, oh, how can I get it down? So that's a great way to reduce.
Tiny PNG.
Is that what it is?
Tiny PNG, yeah.
I think
it's really good as well
on the page.
Yeah.
That's
but
cool.
Yeah, I think we really need to think about this stuff, because even where I live very remote.
Mm-hmm.
I actually do not have I do not have even 3G in my house right now because I live that remote. So,
what are we talking through, satellite in space or something?
Pardon?
Are we talking through satellites in space or something?
I'm on Mars.
It's all making sense.
Yeah, so I think we need to think about these things, and that's what I love about Adapt. I mean, God, I just wish that and I'm part of the eLearning Guild Advisory Board. I didn't tell you that, but I got asked to be part of that. And one of the things that I actually said to them was, I really wish that at the likes of DevLearn, when you go through the big expo hall, it wasn't one-sided. So it wasn't like, you stand there in front of Articulate and they go, here's our tool.
Yeah.
That we could actually go somewhere and say, I want a tool that has all of these things. Because you go out and you go, that's cool, but it doesn't do that. And that's cool, but it doesn't do that. And it feels like no one is asking the user, what do you need,
Yeah.
So I know I put it out there, not that maybe anything will happen, but
your feature request will be considered, and we'll let you know when there's an update.
Well, I mean, it's like Articulate. I think Articulate is phenomenal. I can develop a module in Articulate that in no way looks like Articulate.
Yeah.
Different spinner, but looks amazing. But I don't know. I just feel like Rise isn't quite the same caliber.
Different tool for different purposes.
Different tools for different purposes.
Yeah. All right, I am going to wrap this up because we're going to have 50 billion conversations that are going to happen. I know we're probably going to chat after this now as well and just fulfill our own little love needs. But I just want to say thank you so much for sharing your example with everyone. You're incredible. What you're doing is really inspirational, and I've seen that before, and even now I'm thinking about the projects we're working on and what we need to do things differently and just step it up a tiny bit more even. So yeah, you're amazing. Please keep doing what you're doing. CathEllis.com is her website. You can see portfolio stuff. But yeah, if you want the mastermind, this is, I reckon you're my hero in the whole industry, actually.
You're my hero.
Oh, stop. Okay, well, we obviously love each other a lot, but I think there's mutual respect and everything there. But thank you so much. I do hope that people have been inspired by this episode. You have so much more to value, so much value to bring, and I know there'll be more times that you'll appear on here so we can showcase more of what you're about and people can continue to be inspired by you.
Great. Thank you so much, Kim.